Alright you guys, I have a little bit more time and I got some more reliable translations for chapter 9 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, so let's get it. And also before we start, I had to shave for work tomorrow. I know some of you guys lose your minds whenever I shave, but I had to this time. So page 1 starts us off with like a zoomed in version of one of their people closing their eyes and the third eye is open on their forehead. Now take this with a grain of salt, but the text says, the third eye of the Rumal people is the source of the Ralorka, the power that links us to the stars. Only we Rumal shed tears from the third eye when another Rumal dies. We are said to shed tears from that eye only twice in our lives, at birth and at death. The third eye opens to reveal the passing of the soul. Then it takes us to the Rumal people and they're all meeting together to figure out what's the move now that Akalian has killed the daughter of the Discante tribe's chief. That page ends with this text: if the Rumal did not deliberately offer compensation for her death, the Discante demand repayment with a life of equal weight. The next page basically tells us the Discante tribe does not settle things with wars, they do it with these things called duels. Somebody speaks out and is basically like, this is outrageous, we cannot accept this. Somebody responds saying, well, sorry, but the challenge has already been issued. It then says, in Samaria, those with strength hold authority. When a conflict arises, each side chooses a champion and they fight one-on-one. And after this duel, whoever wins is deemed to be correct. Maru and Cross are shocked by this and someone's like, Maru and Cross wouldn't know because the last duel happened before they were born. So essentially we are finding out that for the Rumal people, Dura will be the one fighting, and for the Discante, and as many of you have guessed by now, the representative for the Discante tribe will be Dabura, the guy with the horns, the literal freaking devil looking dude. And while they're talking, the people are kind of freaking out because they're like, we already know in Samaria, which is their home world, Dabura is the strongest. Why couldn't Dura tell us this earlier? Because it is alluded to that Dura already knew that this was coming. Cross is getting a little upset by all of this and he says, so even if we lose, we can't retaliate or do anything about it? Dura, being the stoic person that he is, he's kind of just like, hey, I'll accept the duel, let's not worry about it and let's just move on. And at the bottom of that page it says, facing the Discante's #1 warrior, the Rumal realized they had zero chance. Maru and Cross are in the crowd watching and Cross says, no Dura, and Maru says, we should just run because if he fights, he'll be killed. And it pans to Dabura and he's kind of like smiling a little bit, looking at Dura, and he says, Dura, it's been a long time. Dura asks Dabura, how's your sister? Dabura responds, if I don't kill you here, they'll kill her. Dura reassures him and says, you don't have to carry that alone, it's okay. Dura adds on, let's talk a little longer, there are people here that don't even know what's happened. In this part I just kind of wanted to read to you guys so I didn't mess it up. And once again, it is a rough translation, so take some of the key terms with a grain of salt. So Dura says, listen, yes, there's a divide between the Rumal and the Discante, but the root was not belief. It was the mineral Carrion gave her life to protect. And that's supposedly the name of the Discante chief's daughter. The mining grounds of Mol were invaded by the Discante. Mol can transform Ralorka into power, it is sacred. One of the spectators says, he'll be killed for saying that. Dura says, if we treat this as a religion, we drown in conflict. Even if the truth is seen as arrogance, we cannot hide it. Dura then says, the thing I wanted to protect was not religion, it was our way of living. Please recognize the Rumal as neighbors and not enemies. Then it shows just the Discante chief's eyes, and it kind of looks like this. He kind of looks like a bull from what I could see. He just says, begin. Maru stands up on one of the ledges and he says, wait, you called them Dabura. And another spectator says, you idiot, you're gonna get us killed, and he slams Maru down. The next page just shows us a bloody Dura with Dabura standing above him. Dura says, you held back, didn't you? And he completely collapses to the ground. Dabura responds, I didn't want to injure your third eye. And we get a text blurb from the narrator, and the narrator says, later we found out that Dabura and Dura were childhood friends. Before they became warriors, the Rumal and the Discante respected each other deeply. The next page shows they're having some sort of funeral ceremony for Dura, just showing that he was respected and laying his body to rest. One of the villagers says, we wanted him to know that we respected him. The Rumal chief says, but this task was just impossible. Another villager chimes in and says, by morning this land will belong to the Discante. Another one chimes in, we're gonna have to move the women and children, because if we wait, we'll die slowly. Another villager says, we need to fight, we'll break their horns. The village elder says, a woman's job is to protect the children, not to die gloriously. Maru and Cross both say Dura as they reflect on the man that he was and the respect they had for him. Maru asks Cross, what did he mean when he said neighbor? And Cross is like, neighbor, like someone that lives nearby. And then it's kind of like a memory, it shows Dura and he says, no. A neighbor is someone who understands what's precious to you. Someone who shares your heart. Then Maru and Cross are both shocked and they say, Dabura? As Dabura approaches them. And it appears Dabura just came to speak with everybody. That page ends with Cross saying, so wait, this is Muru? And it's spelled like M-U-R-U. So Maru, Muru, one of the two. And take that translation with a grain of salt because there's a great chance that could be changed when the official translation comes out Sunday. There's only narration on the next page and it says, Dura gathered all of this quietly. Maru says, so everything he did was for us. Then on the next page we get a mini flashback to Dura and it has Cross and Maru when they were children. Dura says, someday even if I die, this river will remain. The one that they made like that big canal. And keep in mind, in the present time, they're like all in this big group with Dabura. And so it flashes back to that and they're kind of like walking. And Cross says, helping each other is Rumel. Then Maru says, yeah, I feel that too. Then we flip to the next page and Maru's grabbing at some kind of stone and he goes, huh? Cross responds, what is it? And while holding the stone, Maru says, our Ralorca, it's reacting. And as Maru holds his hand on the stone, he begins like glowing, like radiating. And he says, everyone, let's go. Let's find it. Our place to live. Dabura says, I'll go too. I promise Dura. Maru happily points up. And on the last page, a giant rectangular stone that is behind Maru and Cross, it begins to levitate behind him as Maru's pointing up, smiling. Maru says, toward the other side of the heavens, to find our neighbors. And the chapter ends with some narration saying, and so they set out. So overall, you guys, this was a very good chapter. I enjoyed it a lot. It's good to figure out like what Dabura's origin story was and kind of like what happened to Dura. Like we knew he wasn't with them on this journey, or at least as far as we knew. So now we know his actual fate. And we all knew that Dabura was very strong and he showed us why. And so I'm assuming the next chapter, the whole flashback's over and that whole scene with Yuka and Cross is going to be done with. Unless there's something else that like happens while they're in space or something that they add on to that, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. Anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts on this chapter down in the comments. Peace.